Aloha kako. It's Wednesday, and that means it's news day. We have interesting stories from around the AI sphere. We have soft robots for life-saving procedures. Lots of Google news that came out, from chips to models. Waymo is adding internal cameras for data training. Don't worry, they say you can opt out, and tons more. It's April 9th, 2025. This is episode 438, and thank you for joining the Daily AI Show. I am joined today by Beth. We'll see if we can get Brian and maybe Carl today. And of course, I am Jony Hatcher. So let's open it up. Beth, what is your most interesting story that you have for today?
I don't know that's most interesting, but we often skip the one that I used as the title, so let's just talk about that.
Yeah.
OpenAI, there was a small story that came out. Yeah, so there's an echo. Sorry, here we go.
I didn't hear the echo.
Yeah, you are the echo. There was a small story that happened last week before, that was like a little blip that said OpenAI is surprised to realize that they're not involved in the startup between Sam Altman and Jony Ive, the hardware startup. And I may have said his name wrong. But the story this week is that they are now eyeing a relationship with that startup to the value of about 500,000. No, sorry, 500 million. Just a zero or two. And so that's interesting because Sam has been talking about moving toward hardware, and that um, they're eyeing the hardware advantage of Google's Android phones, of iPhones, right? Of Amazon has Alexa, and Claude sort of gets in that. So OpenAI doesn't have a hardware thing. So that's why that story was promoted, and also like it was a cute little like follow up, right? Because that was like a blip, and then it was like, oh right, this is the part two of that. Great. So that's my big story, Jimmy.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. Number one, you're right; it's in the title, so we should talk about it. But I like that we are seeing everybody get into the hardware space in one form or another. I think that's been requested for a while. People have seen that. Okay, eventually we're going to see that, especially as models get smaller and can fit on smaller devices, mobile, and things like that. Also, I really want to see what the competition is going to be versus between this OpenAI phone or mobile device and the Perplexity with T-Mobile, offering that everyone's been a buzz about. So, yeah, everybody get in there, throw some punches, and then hopefully we who have to spend the inevitable $1,500 on the phone will come out on top.
Ooh, that's a generous estimate today, but sure, let's go with
Well,
that.
I mean, that's the average flagship going for right now. So I'm hoping they'll keep it at least at that level.
Yeah.
All right. And Carl's also joined us. Hi, Carl. Thanks for hopping on. Do you have a story you want to cover for today?
Yeah, let's I think everyone's a buzz about the Shopify CEO
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
uh essentially impacting work at Shopify. We've heard in the past about people not hiring, Klarna not doing this, or Salesforce not hiring software engineers, but I don't know, anyone fact check me on this, but is this one of the first times that like a major CEO actually has said, you know what, we're like, I think the big quote was, we won't consider hiring unless you have considered that AI can't do it.
Right.
So
You
that's
have
the
to
big,
prove, right. You have
Yeah,
to prove to me that it can't be done
something like
by
that.
AI, and that's how the new person gets hired.
first of all, am I still echoing? Am I still a problem?
No.
No. Okay. Before I started talking, you guys are like, we can't understand you. What I was going to say to that, Carl, what I found interesting about the story, because that kind of like blew up yesterday, was that was the quote that people pulled out of it. And I didn't think that was the most interesting part about his memo at all. But like when you go Google search Shopify CEO AI memo, right? Something like that. The first 5, 6, or 7 articles you're going to get all have a similar headline, which is Shopify CEO says won't hire more people, won't get more headcount without AI or something. And I'm like, I mean, it's kind of the clickbaity, buzzy side of that. But really what I took away from that was, hey, we're an AI first company. We've been leading in AI for a while, which is true. Most people on the outside looking in would look at Shopify and say, yeah, they've been deploying and trying to use AI for a while. They're certainly not new to this. And what he was saying is, like, he gave examples of using AI to help with his own, conference speeches and things like that. But also it seemed to me, he just wanted to get across the point of like, look, we need to be an AI first mentality type company. And so everybody has been given the tools. You all have access, is the way I read it. Like, we've given you the tools. We're telling you to go try to put these processes through AI first before you decide whether it can be improvements or not. And so he talks a lot about that. And then towards the end, he does say, before anybody comes to me with headcount requests, make sure that you've tried to see if there's any like AI efficiencies here that could perhaps alleviate the need for headcount. And I'll tell you, my CEO, my boss, Jake Dunlap, he put out a LinkedIn post after that, and he said, these are the highest headcount numbers we're going to see, period. Meaning that he just feels like they'll be in orders of efficiency over time. We're going to see headcounts in general drop, and that perhaps we're at a peak. Now, that's not going to apply to all industries, but you get his point to it, So yeah, it was I'm glad you brought it up, Carl, because that was it was one of those cool AI stories that, kind of goes right across. And it, like, I saw it reshared on LinkedIn probably no less than 10 times, and different perspectives, by the way, which was super cool, as people were like, this is how I see it. This is how I see it. This is how I think people should be prepared, and all that stuff. So yeah, one of my favorite recent AI news stories for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the perspective of why people are picking out like a particular piece they're focusing on, because while it's nice, like from I think from our general perspective, it's, oh, okay, so a major CEO of a major company is saying AI first. We're gonna start integrating, and we want our employees and department heads and everybody to start using AI. Great, but with that additive saying, don't talk to me about headcount, which is hiring people before you see if you can figure if AI can do it for you, which means we're not hiring people. I mean, to what most people, I think, hear. And so that's especially with the last, I don't know, few months, year of tumulation and chaos that seems to be happening of the relative current events. This is going to be at the forefront of everybody's minds, right? So I can see both sides of that. So I think it's a good thing to keep an eye on, and we are at the point where we kind of have to go line by line and examine all of these thought processes for those who are in charge of so many people, right? What those futures are going to be like.
And Andy, who can't just be with us live on screen at the moment, but is in the green room, for lack of a better term. So he's kind of hanging out with us. But Andy just put up a good point too. That Shopify is a SaaS software company, and not all companies have such alignment with AI enhancement of headcount functions, which I 100% agree. And I think that's what my point was to Jake's, my CEO Jake's post, which was like, I get what he was saying. He also, Jake talks specifically towards like, sales orgs and things like that. So it made sense when he said it, but I do think I agree with you, Andy. I think there's a point to be made there that this is not universal, but it's certainly going to have an impact. And this, Carl, I don't know if you were saying fact check it. I'm not sure if this is like the first major non-AI CEO to really come out and plant a flag and say something like this, but certainly made an impact because of the size of the company and his reputation, things like that.
So in improv, there's a sort of rule or a tenet that the thing doesn't happen until the reaction has happened. So I don't think that this was the first time
Sure.
a CEO has said that. This is the first time that everyone else on stage reacted like, whoa.
Yeah.
And now that's a thing.
Also, and I don't want to claim that it wasn't like legit the way it rolled out, but the way it did came across as a smooth marketing tactic, which is to say this was an internal memo and I'm hearing that it's leaking. So never mind, here it is. Now you could, I don't want to be negative because it could have just been like that. Like it's just like, well, if people from Shopify are going to share it anyway, I'd rather me share it out there because it's a good memo, whatever. It also could have been a predetermined marketing plan because it sounds more enticing if you're getting somebody who's like, well, I'll show you behind the curtain at Shopify. And of course that can get people a little more interested in what's being said too. So I don't know that to be the fact. I'm not saying it was, but I had that thought certainly when I read it. Like I was like, oh, I wonder if this was a little pre-planned or if this just literally was the way it rolled out. I hope so. I hope it's the latter. Like
there's one thing that I think you mentioned it, Brian, at the very beginning. It's like it's easier for Shopify to do this because of the alignment, because of the CEO really pushing AI, big proponent of it. That's when I see all the comments and all the posts about how everyone's super excited, which feeds into the hype. I was like, that's great. But I'm like, I've met 3 CEOs this week that are our clients. And I was like, they know nothing, very, very little about AI. Their business, they need people, land surveyors, I think it's like, what was the other one? Like land surveyors, geomatic something engineers, I think. And just those 2. And then there's our, I guess, planners that for major developments. And it's like, and all 3 of them are reversed. They're like, we need people. And then even looking at the AI options, it's like AI can't do what they can do.
Right.
You think it's like can't. So there's so many industries out there like that, that I think like, again, back to the AI bubble, people think, you can't just think about it that way from more of a software perspective. Like if you think of other industries outside of that, non-tech, traditional, like sure, professional services, but when we start getting down into like, hey, people need to lay pipe in the ground.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like that kind of stuff. It's like the CEO there be like, yeah, don't care. Need more people.
Yeah.
So
and I wonder if that's going to push more people back into the trades, because of that, because they're the job that they traditionally held simply is hard to come by now because of reduced headcounts in their particular role, in their particular industry. And that will people go to the trades because not only is the pay probably better,
yes,
but there's also perhaps more job security in being some sort of pipe layer, right? Something like that.
So short little story here. That company I was talking about, the person's like, oh, it's very funny that like they're looking at the news too. It's like, oh, a lot of these corporate workers, because that's the view. It's like, oh, they're all complaining about like getting laid off. It's like, I've got people here who make $130,000 in 8 months of work. Now, mind you, it's 12 hours, 6 days. Yeah. It's hard work. Yeah. But then if you're any smart at it, within 6-8 months, you will move up pretty quick that you won't actually be the one doing the actual hard work. You'll be overseeing it, which now you're making $150,000, $170,000, $180,000 in 8 months of work. So it was just, so my thought was like, hilarious marketing strategy is go after the corporate workers, go after them and say, hey, like your job that you complain about, do this 8 months. But he was like, yeah, But if I get in a room about 30 of them, only one will survive because a lot of them probably won't be able to lay pipe for 12 hours a day.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they went into their path, their career path, right?
Well, but if we look at how AI could impact that, maybe this is the flip side of that, right? So can AI help you skill up knowledge, right? The brain work of like, if it's this size, then it should be this pipe, or if it's this, I don't know what's coming through the pipe, but if it's this amount of water, then it's got to be this size kind of thing. And then we add to that AR, which is not like having its thing yet, but is coming.
Sure.
Right? Like, would that then CEO buy the Vision Pro or the Quest or the like give your AR whatever, right? And then then you don't need, like, you still need to know how to lay pipe, but you have a fail safe or something that's like, it's like when you're parking, right? Like, red, wait, don't do the thing and check what's happening. No?
You still need people to lay pipe, though. You can AR everything, but
Sure,
he told me, as long as people flush toilets, as long as people drive electric car doesn't matter, and as long as we're growing our cities, you still need all these people to do that. And it's really funny. He was like, doesn't matter to me. AI all you want. See, that's why we're like, he wants to AI everything, but he still knows there's still people who need to actually
work. But for how long? For how long? Like, what's the ramp? Right. I can 3D print a house now.
Right.
And print a road or a pipe, though. Like, someone has to put.
You can totally do that. I can have a robot do all of those things eventually.
That guy would challenge you tenfold.
I'm sure. I am totally sure. But how long is it? What is the ramp? Right? It's going to be the question. Oh, do you want it done right, or do you want it done fast, or do you want it done cheap? You can have two. So, what's going to be the deciding factor? And it's usually the bottom dollar. So fast, prefab, robot build. I mean, China's kicking out these module homes, these pod homes, like nobody's business for 10 grand. So, do you want a $400,000 home, or can you buy a piece of crappy land for $40,000 and put a $10,000 module home? Then you'll have to replace in 10 years. But it only costs 10 grand.
Home and laying sewer and roads is a little bit different, right? It's
look, they already when you use heavy machinery to put in those kinds of things, you've already taken the first step to automation. Now, I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm just trying to say there is a time period. There is a ramp before it happens. Can we figure out what that is? And is it fast enough to take all of we'll call the knowledge workers, retrain them to do this for how long until that part gets replaced, right? I guess it's begging the larger question of what is the long-term solution for this eventual change out or this eventual transition.
Are you talking like 20 years versus, because I know is like learning more about it. I was like, hell no, robots can't do it. People think it's like, it's actually a very, very complex thing. What they do, very, very complex. I was like, holy cow, the amount of precision this company and companies like it have to do is actually interesting. Like, wow. And then thinking about what the robots I've seen, it's like, yeah, maybe, but I think like, sure, if they get to that point, I think it goes back to my always favorite topic. Like, if this thing can actually do my recycling, but even then, I'm not sure it can do it better than like the amount of just like I've seen it. I was on site and I was like, I don't know if a robot can do what this job site can do based on these specs in this timeline using this. I was like, I don't know. It was very.
It's a matter of the right now, for sure. I totally agree for the right now. But all right, let's get back to some news. I know we could talk forever on that. So Brian, what do you got? Give us a news story.
Did you throw it at me? Is that who you said? I don't think I couldn't hear at the very, very beginning of the show. So did you guys already talk about MCP? No. So two kind of back-to-back stories in that. Jimmy, you had shared with us on the back channel how Supabase had built a MCP server or a client, whatever it's called. And then just today, or I guess it came out yesterday, 11 Labs put out an X post saying introducing the official 11 Labs MCP server. Give Claude and Cursor access to the entire 11 Labs AI audio platform via simple text prompts. You can even spin up a voice agents to perform outbound calls for you, like ordering pizza. And in this particular video that's on here, the guy on it does that. He basically gives, there's a lot of permission through it, but because it stops a lot and says, are you okay with this? Are you okay with us sharing your number? Those kind of things. So there's a little bit of clicking through. It's not agentic in that sense, but it works. And the voice that he picks up as the pizza place, and the 11 Labs voice orders the pizza. Now, the only thing that's funny about the whole thing is he bargains the 11 Labs voice for whatever reason. I don't know if it was built in there. The guy says the pizza will be $12, and he says, or 12 pounds, because he's British. And he says, could you do it for 10? And he says, yeah, because he's just doing the demo, whatever. And I thought, in what world are people haggling for pizza price on a thing? So it just made me laugh that it was more on there, but it wasn't the point of it. I think the bigger part here is that with like sort of a slow, news story, a week or two ago from OpenAI saying, hey, we love MCP. We think what they're building at Anthropic makes perfect sense. And kind of instead of what I thought might happen is OpenAI built a competitor. At least in this case, they've said, no, we're happy to continue to improve and build upon MCP. It makes a lot of sense. And now only in the next 2 weeks, you're seeing Supabase news, you're seeing 11 Labs news. And I would imagine over the next several weeks, we will see story after story after story of more companies feeling confident in putting their time and attention into building out in Model Context Protocol. So if you're not sure what we're talking about, we've done 2 different shows on Model Context Protocol. So we can go back and try to find those episodes for you. But you can look it up. Just look up Anthropic MCP or something like that if you need some refreshers on essentially what that is. In very layman's term, it really takes the onus off of the person putting together like an end-to-end automation to have to do all the individual connectors, where the easy example is Google Calendar. If I was going to go retrieve something from the Google Calendar, edit something from the Google Calendar, get something from the Google Calendar, or otherwise, those end up being different nodes inside of an N8N. You can kind of visually see that. And then what MCP basically does is it feeds the right terminology back to the AI agent, like if you're using like ChatGPT, so that it can connect and understand better. And you're only doing that through what would end up being one MCP node. And then that is updated from the builder side of it. So the Google side in this case would be maintaining and updating that. There's some downsides, and we did that all on the show, and we showed a lot of examples. That was like less than a month ago. So I would say that's the deep dive if you want to get into it. But that's the news story, is like the 11 Labs, but then you mentioned Supabase, and I'm like, yep, okay. I think we're starting to see a ball rolling downhill here.
Yeah, we're off to the races. It made me so excited when I came across that news. I was like, awesome. That's database access. It's official release. So that means it'll be essentially a repo that will be moderated or maintained by the organization. So this is essentially the new API moment, if you want to like categorize those kinds of things. So yeah, I'm super excited about that, because it makes it so much easier. Once you have the server loaded, it's you can really start using the benefits of having the models, which is the natural language, to access everything that you need.
Yeah.
And you just explain it. Oh, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of that. You figure it out. Okay, cool, we will. And go from there. But okay, I'll leave it there. Beth, it looks like you've got a story coming up.
Well, Justin's thinking along my thoughts. Does this
Oh.
mean that Apple comes out with like their brand new technology, which is just MCP under the thing, but it's got some Apple thing in it, but it's totally closed and you can't use anybody else's stuff? Yes. So that was just me having fun. This story is very under the radar, but I think important. Intel and TSMC have reached an agreement to start to form a chip making joint venture. It happened like right at the end, like it broke like April 3rd, April 4th, so last week. But any chip making news I think is important. And also we had a show on the books for a while that Brian wanted to do, which was like, what happened to Intel and how did it just make really, really bad moves? And this seems like potentially not making a bad move because we do need to diversify the chip making process. Intel obviously has a chip making history, whether the recent history was like kind of disappointing. But I thought that this was an important story, and I just haven't seen very many people talk about it.
That it's hugely important. Intel is one of the 3 fab companies in the world. TSMC is the number 1, doing like 70 or 80% of all chip fab. Intel used to be the biggest, dropped down to number 2, or maybe even number 3 now. And I believe Samsung is the only other that has actual chip fab, that base level chip fabrication. That is amazing, and I want to learn more about that story, because if they're in a collaboration, what is the extent of that? They're a joint venture? Are they building new processes, new campuses? Where's it gonna be? Is this a way to invigorate Intel's chip? Okay, so tons of questions from me, so I'll have to follow that up.
So TSMC would take a 20% stake in Intel's chip making facilities, and then there's not a lot of detail beyond that. And yes, I think all of the things that you're talking about are like potentially on the table. So,
and Garrett was just saying that Intel is pivoting. I have friends at Intel here in Portland, so some perhaps insider information on that one.
Interesting. I wonder how they're fit. Let's just hope they don't become Sega. So
Sega, I had to do it.
Yeah,
we all heard it.
You have to yell it out if you know.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna blow through a few of the quick stories coming out of Google's next event. They announced Ironwood, which is their new chip, their 7th generation TPU, and apparently it has been optimized for inference. So running AI models and things like that. Comes in 2 configurations, a 256 chip cluster and a 9,216 chip cluster. That seems like a big difference. So we'll see how that breaks out. It'll probably be offered through their cloud platform, available for processing and all those kinds of things. One of the other things is they came out with Gemini 2.5 Flash, which they're calling dynamic and controllable. So we'll see how that comes out. Their Flash models have always been focused on efficiency. So this will probably be how to get to core answers far more quicker and cheaper. Hopefully this will just be an update to all of the Flash models. So those are the 2 big takeaways, and an associated Google news. Reddit is now tapping into Gemini for its AI features. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of that use, and of course data collection. And Reddit already says they're doing training on it. So we'll see if anything better comes out from there. I've got a whole list. Who wants to talk about their next one?
I just want to build on what you said. It's like the 2.5 experimental, I think, is now connected to Google's deep research. So you can now, I never knew what model was actually connected to Google's deep research, but now their top model is connected. I don't know if it's, you have to buy it, because I'm no longer a Gemini subscriber. So I don't know if you just hit that. Oh, you do. So if you hit, they said if you hit Gemini 2.5 Pro, then you should have a little button that says deep research, similar to OpenAI's deep research, and then you can use 2.5.
Fun fact, the Daily AI Show actually subscribes to Gemini Advanced because it's part of the family. So we can actually do a demo of that at some point, perhaps.
Friday. Friday, when we talk about all the Gemini and Google stuff, that would be awesome.
So I wanted to, so Junmi, I don't know if you've heard about this new tool. It's kind of out there, like it was out there for a bit, or it just came out. I'm not sure. Has anyone explored Higgsfield.ai?
Ooh, I saw a little blurb about Higgsfield.
So I want to show you, because
bring it up.
I'll bring it up because I did a little fun activity here, and I was like, what is this? So I was like, let's. So for those who, just to set up the scene, can everyone see it? No, I have to stop sharing and reshare.
You have to share it because Jumi and Brian colluded. So.
Right. We corrected the settings.
Beth is pushing back, but this is clearly the right way to do it. Is it brings it up on the side panel, and then you bring it in when you're ready.
It was a mutiny.
A mutiny. Well, it was a well-deserved mutiny as far as I'm concerned.
So I think everyone can see it now.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. So these two images were created in using GPT-4, and it was a image that representation of an interior design that we wanted to showcase to a potential client here. So we did a presentation. They gave us an image of their front reception, and we just did some fun stuff with it. Now, one of the things that I've always had a problem with video generators is its ability to take a scene and naturally have people in that scene. So I'll give you, here's an example of one. I don't think I've ever been able to do that. But one thing I tried Sora, I've tried Runway, Gen 4, and I've never had actually people sit down naturally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, that actually does look real.
That's pretty good, doesn't it?
That's better than what I'm used to seeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cushions react, the pillow reacts.
Cushions react.
Like they kind of do that rocking thing like a natural human would do.
Yes.
It's not just sit down and stop you. There's usually some additional motion in there. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but look at the camera move. It changes speed of the zoom in and does an adjustment. Does like a dolly or tracking.
And
just slightly.
He touches his knees, his shirt adjusts. His shirt adjusts not only on his belly, but also his shoulder and his his elbow, right? It's moving.
There's doesn't look like there's enough shadow underneath the feet, but man, am I being nitpicky? Because that is still, like, in terms of just sitting down, that's some of the best stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
And of course, this, when you use this, no one is doing it as often as we're doing it. You're just looking at it.
For sure. Like how many seconds is that? Is that like
5 seconds? It's 5 seconds.
Yeah. So you've already cut to the next scene. So
right.
9 times out of 10, people are not going to be breaking it down.
Yeah. Do you see this? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at this cushion. When I saw the cushion, it's like, bing.
Yeah.
Holy smoke.
But
that's a great physics engine, I'll tell you what.
Yes. But now I would say,
her
I don't know why her hands are messed up, right? Like that is to mirror of that funky position, right? The detail is gone in that context. But that's super nitpicky also.
Yeah.
And now we'll get. There is something I don't know if anybody else is noticing, but like when the models get better, the hands get worse, and then they go back and they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we know. Now we got to fix the hands again."
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
why
sure,
that
for
is,
sure.
but
Yeah.
And go to the one below that real quick, Carl.
So this one is just top down, people just walking around, and there was that weird thing, but you could have assumed that was something, right? It was like a scene
Mhm.
from somewhere. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
quick. Yeah, I mean the one guy's sleeve, not sleeve, new
Yeah.
style
new
there. But that's
fashion. It's very fashionable.
But hey, I'm not going to argue with that. Like, oh, that's a fashion thing. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I was like,
look,
oh, okay.
hey, play it again and look at the guy in the white shirt. Like the fact that he's like, it's obviously working together. I mean, because he puts his arm around somebody else, touches somebody else, look, touches his shoulder, then puts
Mhm.
arm around this person's shoulder. I'm pointing with my mouse like you can see it, but you know what I'm saying. I love when I do that. I'm like, watch my pointer. I'm not the one with the screen. But the anyway, yeah, it's what is it called again? What are you using?
It's called Higgsfield AI. There's one more I wanted to show. So I took this watercolor, which we based it out of this like rendering, like top-down rendering of the plan. So I said, hey, it actually edits my prompt for me, because my prompt was turned into a 3D rendering with the cars driving on the road. It was like vibrant 3D rendering of blah 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 blah, blah, blah and so on. As the camera, like it actually did it for me. So what was kind of neat about this is it kind of brought a little bit of it to life.
Yeah, the cars
that's
moving and stuff.
cool.
That's cool.
It's like, oh, that's kind of neat.
Can you expand that window real quick so we can see it a little bigger?
Sure.
All right, play it again.
Now, mind you, this is not cars. It's just a road. So I thought it was just neat that it was able to kind of.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's to me, this is the kind of stuff. Look, this is exactly what I talk about when we talk about like how to make presentations better, slide decks better. This is a small thing, but if it loaded when you went to that slide and people were able to see something like this, it does just visually make that slide just a little bit better. And I think people discredit like some of those small improvements with AI that you can do because they like collectively add up. I think this is a good example of like what you were saying, Carlos. Like, it adds a little movement. It just gives it a little something extra that it didn't have.
Zhuzh.
A zhuzh. Yeah. A zhuzh. A little zhuzh.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's been so many AI video drops lately, or at least announcements from so many and so many groups I've never heard of. It to me it sounds like it's like the early days, a year or two ago, where all of the various modes, right, come out with, here's a bunch of different things. And so we had our clear leaders like runway, right? And now it's, you have those for sure. They stay in the hype cycle, but now we've got this thing called Higgsfield. What is Higgsfield? Where did that come from? Nowhere. It came from nowhere. And now we're paying attention to it.
They could have been, in working in secrecy for, whatever. And then they come out of the shadows, right? I have a pivot on that if I can, Jimmy.
Go for it.
I have like a 3-parter here, but not 3 different stories. They all go together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my screen on the side. And now that I'm ready, I'm going to pull it onto the screen. Sorry, Beth. Okay, this is part 1 of a 3-part because somebody actually said it in the chat way earlier. They're like, "Hey, we're going to talk about Llama 4." Okay, so part of this story, and let me say all 3 parts, and then we'll just talk about all of it. There's been some pushback in Meta's case for Llama 4. There's been some leaks, some internal memos, some people resigning, and also people just saying they like straight up fudge the benchmark numbers. Okay, so that's part of the story. And then let me jump to this one next. So this came out, and this is the pivot from what you were saying, Jimmy. Here's a company most people I never heard of. I don't know if others have. Deep. I always wanted to say Cognito, but there's no N in there. So it's Deep Cogito. Cogito? You guys guess. I don't really know.
Cogito, right?
Cogito. Oh, because it's a like more of a is that like a French word? Not French, a
Well,
Spanish word.
Cogito.
Cogito.
Cogitation.
Doesn't matter. This company. But here's the reason I want to bring up this one is because they've come out with their own language models. But in this case, you can see it's fine-tuned off of, it's a deep research one. It's fine-tuned off of Llama 3.2, which is why I also just wanted to bring into the fold this conversation, which is NVIDIA's new Llama 3.1 Nemotron Ultra outperforms DeepSeek R1 at half the size. So I want to bring all three of those together because one, there's the conversation of like, what's going on with Meta, man? Like, they released Llama 4 and did they just whiff on the delivery? Did they, is this a like put it out too fast, or is this like we put it out so you guys can break it so we can make it better? But then also, I know a lot of people currently are sort of dogging on Llama, but I just want to point out the reason I brought up the other two shows is like NVIDIA, brand new companies that we haven't heard of, all building on the open source Llama platforms and building off of those. And so even if Llama 4 maybe is getting a little bit of heat right now, I think the other side of that is these are actually pretty well respected models that lots of other companies are deciding that because of their open source and I think commercial use and things like that, they're building their deep research version off of it. Or I mean, NVIDIA, who probably has plenty of money to go their own way, and this one is building off of Llama 3.1. So just curious what you guys think about that, but that's been sort of rolling around the news with Llama 4.
I mean, I think Meta probably made a great decision, or at least from my perspective, in releasing a open, in air quotes, model that everyone can take a look at, everyone can use, everyone can integrate or iterate on, because what it does is it's a bunch of free QA and free development and build a larger user base of your model. If what you're interested in is minimizing how much effort you have to do to maintain and build and keep in lockstep with the other major players, but you're tapping into the open source community, because for the most part the realization is hey, we know that you folks out there in the wide world are going to have a better time applying what this can do for you and build upon it. And because it was open, you have to make your stuff open. And so that means all the work that you've done, we can take back and improve our own products, because our main products are, of course, the user experience on our platform. So I think it's a good balance. It's one of the reasons why open source is a good idea. Now, they're not true open source, but they at least allow you to have commercial aspects, and having that available for like NVIDIA and other players who aren't necessarily as big as like OpenAI to be in that space and contribute to the overall development. So I think that's great, a great position for them to have taken. We did need that as an option, and I can't remember who's that head of their program, but I recently heard that the head of their AI program is now moving on. So we have to keep a close eye on the Meta AI space, because that might be them changing their position on how that is. But yeah, I think overall it's been a healthy thing. It's good to have a counterpoint, even if it's a somewhere in the middle kind of approach to open source. Just because there's a lot of backing and money behind there, and we want to make sure that there is a counterpoint to the fully business oriented or corporate development of AI.
Yes, no. I was like,
Beth, you were
waiting.
muted, so I was like, "Oh, are you about to say something?"
Oh, me? I was like waiting for you to pivot to the next.
No. I was waiting for Beth because Beth looked like she was
Beth.
about to say something,
Yeah.
and then I noticed her mic was muted, and I was just like, "Oh, wait, are you gonna unmute? Should I say something?" And now I've said a bunch of things.
That was a standoff, man. Even Gareth is like, pause.
Pause. Yeah,
That was
exactly.
a four-way standoff there for a second. Yeah, I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't want to jump over anybody
Yeah.
on it. I do have, unless you were to jump on something real quick, Beth. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just because we're going to talk about Google a lot more on Friday, but Google's continuing to give more and more people access to AI mode, and they're also adding more functions to the AI mode.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just throw this up on screen really quickly, just to give a sort of a flavor of it, because I really do feel like this is what we're going to. This is the future of Google, right? If you're doing a Google search, I kind of have been telling people in and outside of this show, like, hey, just go look at this AI mode. I think you're going to get a really good idea of like what the future may look like and how whatever they do with ads and stuff like that. So I want to use a more complex question here. Given the upcoming weather this weekend in Tampa, what would you suggest is a great outdoor activity in the city? Now, that's something you could search Google for. That's okay. But I wanted to make sure there was stuff that I wasn't explicitly giving the answer to in order for it to pull that in. And so you can see here, it's just pulling in the information, given that, we're going to be in 70, 74, which actually does sound perfect. We finally cooled off here a little bit after being in the 90s last week. Here's some ideas, great ones. I specifically made sure I did not, my follow-up question did not restate what was in the first one. So are there any events I need to know about without mentioning the city again? No problem. It has continuity here as far as going through it. Tells me different things. And then I said, could I use the ferry to make bigger day of it across both cities? So we have this really cool ferry that goes from Tampa Bay over to St. Pete. And my wife and I did that last year and just had like a lot of fun with it. It's just like one of those fast cat ferries. And all it does is go across the bay. We don't, believe it or not, being even water all around us here, we don't really have a lot of ferries like you guys do up in like Portland and Seattle and those areas. So it's just kind of a unique way to see both parts, both cities on there. So anyway, just a little bit of fun on there, but like really great information in it. Super, super, super fast, which I think is going to be a big part of it, is they've certainly put effort towards the latency side. So I don't know. I don't always turn it on. I mean, I still use Google for Google things, but when I think about it, I'll just throw it on AI mode because I just think this type of prompting and natural question and stuff like that is really what we're going to see when you say, I want to search for something on Google. It's going to be a lot more of this, and we'll have to see what they do for page rankings and all the ads and all the other things we've talked about, since that's a big part of their model. But yeah, this is cool stuff.
So my question,
that integration on the in your day to day, I think that'll be a key transition for AI. Sorry, Carl, what were you saying?
Oh, the because this is now going to be on the top, I have no clue how they're going to balance this out with essentially their business model, right? It's like the business model has always been ads on top. People click the ads to go to my site to buy whatever I want to buy.
Right.
So there's going to have to be some sort of algorithm to figure out, based on your query, is this going to come up or is the ads going to come up? What's going to come up first? Because organic already is dead. Like, you have, even just without AI, anything, you have to scroll down tons of stuff. Now put AI overviews on top of it or whatever things before. There's no room for organic at all. Like, you're going to have to go all the way down. It's going to be very tough. And essentially, to me, it's a big scam because companies are bidding on their own keywords, on their own branded terms, to kind of ensure to be on the top, even though people are already searching for them, right? So they would have gone to the organic, but it's such a pain in the ass now because you have to scroll all the way down to get to the organic, so you might as well pay for the top. So and just like any company who has like Perplexity ads, which I kind of like their feature of, suggested questions, I'm curious because ads are one thing, but if you're manipulating the results for the ads to have results that show up, if you do an AI overview, is it actually generated or is it generated with an algorithm that adds into the generation? Then how much can you actually trust that generation on top of, is it a branded piece of generation? I don't know, but that's kind of
So
getting dangerous there too.
yes, and that's been the question the whole time, right? Because we've had a sense that, like, okay, getting up to the top 10 and then having those ads on the side, you're sort of buying for visual space. But when Brian just said, so this is an interesting thing, and I don't know whatever they're going to do with ads, how far have we come that like we're not even thinking that that's an unusual thing, right? I mean, Carl, you're saying like, but that's the business model.
Yeah.
And what is happening? It's been eating its own tail for a while, and we're just like, now it's just half a snake eating its own tail, right? Like, I mean, some of the snake is gone. So, because that's what happens when you're a snake eating your own tail.
I personally would love to see a new model emerge. Something, of course, that's more customer focused, better for us, I'm sure. But I would love to see a completely different model, like just throw out, because the internet for the last 20 years has been ad supported.
Yep.
Right. And that's just a migration of the previous version of it, print ads, commercials, all that kind of stuff, just translating to the new medium. So having a completely different way of doing business, or a new model that's consumer focused, to the benefit of the consumer. I have to put it in. All right. So that, overall, because content people are happy people. Content people, spend money and don't cause trouble. But I'm just saying, if you made everybody content, then you wouldn't have upheaval. All right. Well, I'll digress from there.
One number for you, though, 264.59. That is $264.59 billion. That is what you're throwing away or changing, right? So it's like, there's people that are like,
yes, there will always be people who are resistant to change, but that doesn't mean the change shouldn't happen. But okay. Man, now I've totally lost track of what I was about to say to comment on that. But yes, I would like to see a new model. I would like to see a systemic change. Absolutely. Cool. I think that was my only real point for that. Will we see it? I don't know. But I do think what usually happens is it's the same thing with a little twist or a little change. So what you might see is Google going into sales from the sales point, where they go, hey, we've ran an ad that we instantly generated for your product based upon all of these searches that it was relevant for. Would you like to continue with that service? The first one's free, and then you keep paying us and we'll continue to do it. No? All right, we'll pick up the next person, and it goes that way. That's probably not the ideal, but I could totally see how the shift to maintain their ad sales is to bring it to everyone, because with their AI, they can generate the ad. They can generate the copy. They can spin up anything that they want. So then there'll be a manipulation of how, affiliates things are going. It's like, hey, we think your product's really good. Let's spin up some personalized advertising through our platform so people see it, engage with it, and we'll take 20% of whatever has gone through our links. Largest affiliate marketing site in the world. But I'll leave it there.
I have one final small one.
All right.
Academy.openai.com. OpenAI launched their own training thing. They have live events. They have developer info. You ever wondered why function calling didn't work? Maybe their function calling little tutorial will help you. I've not gone into them. They look like 1-hour webinars, so maybe this is a double time kind of watch situation. But if you look at their events, they're definitely trying to make it easy for different groups of people. AI for nonprofits sprint, AI for where is this? AI for older adults, introduction to AI. Intro to AI for K to 12 educators, automate knowledge graphs for RAG. Like it's really trying to go across the board, and I think answer some of the problems that people are having in trying to find use cases for themselves and what can I do. And I think that's really an interesting move on their part.
Yeah, it's a good looking website. I definitely recommend people going to check it out. I looked at it a couple days ago, and I was trying to earmark it and say, oh, I want to test out or try some of these different events and see how it goes. So that's a good call out.
Okay, unless anybody has a pressing story they want to cover, I want to close out on an AI in science. Okay. So from our folks at Science Daily, they have brought us an article on Penn State, and one of their lead researchers, Dr. Cheng, they're developing a tiny, soft, flexible robot that can crawl through earthquake rubble to find trapped victims or travel inside the human body to deliver medicine. So this is essentially what they use is they use an adaptable robot body integrated with flexible electronics that are magnetically controlled for the motion. And what they're trying to develop is the technology that'll allow it to go from, that's macro size, where it could be used to find people in earthquake rubble, down to the micro size, so it can be used in, as a medical device, also internally. So it's a matter of scaling. And so that's an interesting approach to developing the technology, so they can have big robots and small robots using the same base tech. Now, this might sound familiar because in the last few weeks, we've talked about flexible robots, and we've talked about non-electronic robots, and we've talked about magnetically controlled motion in other robots. So there is a lot of parallel development going along with, and different aspects of it being developed at other universities, other institutions, research labs, and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that up because what if they can crack what that scale is going to be able to make it big and small using the same kind of tech throughout, then that makes it a lot easier to produce and implement and apply into various situations, various applications. So that's the big AI and science story that I got. Yeah, super cool. Science fiction. Here we go. And I just saw that Beth posted a CTA for everyone to join the Sci-Fi AI show this week. So Beth, what do we have?
That was called out by Dustin request. So this wasn't just Beth inserting this. We're going to talk about language and language and the model of that we're going to continue the conversation of the Anthropic paper and talk about language as a layer that sits on top of concept, and go a little deeper into how that moves us to the world and what we learn about our own brains. The Sci-Fi AI show is really turning into not just like, hey, this relates to these movies, but also what does it mean for us as people, which of course is ultimately what sci-fi is about. Like, what is it like to be a person in a world that's changing?
That's right. So everyone, please join us. Join us for that show. But I think this will be where we'll wrap up for today's news. Thank you everyone for joining us live today, and thank you for everyone who watches later. You can always continue the conversation and join us in our new community Slack channel, and continue the conversation there, talking about AI and all kinds of fun things. So far, it's been a blast. I think we launched it yesterday, and there's just been tons of convos on there so far. Upcoming shows tomorrow, we have Keeping Up with AI Without Burning Out. This is all based off of an Allie K. Miller article, and how people can deal with all of the things that are coming out with AI. This is something that I think we all experience, especially in the AI space. So it'll be interesting to dive deep into that, delve, and all of those kinds of things. And then Friday, we're talking about Google, which is great alignment with, because
You were saying, Jimmy?
yeah.
Bad. Man.
Okay, I have referenced that I have a hand trimmer and not actually be any.
Okay.
I do want it so that I can not go fuck. Still,
I'm gonna finish your thought on Google real quick, Jimmy.
Yeah, so join us Friday for our daily AI show, so we can talk about Google and all the things that Google's coming out with and has come out with, and their rapid pace in catching up and in some cases overtaking. So that is what's coming out in the rest of the week.
This is how you know the show is live and we're not AI robots yet.
Right. Everyone, thank you so much again for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.
Okay. I'm going to play that outro again, which should have ended, and it probably is a good